Welcome to Drawing 1. This is Omer Studio, and for my classes, I'm going to teach today what I call drawing control. What we're going to do is take something that's small, like that, and learn how to make a chosen size in the same proportion. Okay, and so what we're going to do is do the three things that I call box it in, anchor points, and major divisions. So here we go. Like if you come in with a straight line, where does it stop? And if we hit that there, hits the elbow right there, okay? If we come in from this side, it hits right there. If we come in from the top, it'll hit right there. And if you come in from the bottom, it'll hit right there. And so what that'll do is create a box that we can refer to throughout our drawing. Okay, hold on. Let me... Okay. Since my cameras are slightly different than my actual view, I'll redo that there. So we have that line there. I have to look at my projection to see which way the lines are going. There. There, and there. Okay. Now, if you want, on your reference, you can draw those lines if you need to. The real practice is to get to where you just envision those lines, okay? When out in space, you're looking at that reference, that you're just simply measuring it, and you don't have a real box around it or even a drawn box around it, but you can find it and use it to create your proportions. Okay, so here's what we're doing. So there's our box, right? So we need to box it in. What we're going to do is take this box and measure it, and usually I go with the shortest element of the box, either up and down or left and right. I can tell it's top to bottom. So I'm going to take that, and I'm going to call that one apple. I tend to never use words that actually relate to the subject, because you can, in your mind, kind of twist things around. So I just make up some name and try it. And if I go one apple this way, my thumbnail to the end of the pencil, and I'll make a little mark there. Okay, I need to get that in closer. Okay, I'm going to use this device. So, so from the bottom of there, where my thumbnail is, okay, to the top there's one apple. Then I'm going to come out here to the edge of my line and come over one apple. And you can see where that hits there, right? Okay, so what does that tell me? That it's one apple high and one apple wide plus part of another apple, okay? And if we go this way, we can say, okay, from here to here, how much more of an apple is there? Here's half, quarter. I mean, it's about an eighth or something like that. It's not a lot. And so if it's not a lot, we can kind of judge it. That's almost enough to measure exactly, but we're just going to kind of judge it as one apple tall to one plus some apple wide. Okay? So now what does that mean up here on your paper? Okay, and this is my 18 by 24 paper. And I want you to draw this as large as you can on your paper. Okay? So what we want to do is come up here and make the same proportions. Alright, so what does that mean? Now, freehand, please don't use a ruler. Don't feel like you need to use a ruler. You're going to be fine. Okay. I just know I want the image to be about from here to here. Okay. In fact, you can just throw on a couple of marks. Okay, from there to say here. Okay. And just trying to see where my middle is, about right there. Okay. So what I'm going to do is just draw in some lines on my paper. Okay, like that. Then that's going to give me my basic reference for how high I want to go with the image and how low I want to go with the image. Okay. So now I've got two lines across my paper. That represents this line and that line. Okay, now go ahead and put one more line in with a good guesstimate of where you think it might go. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. Is I can tell already I'm pushing it over too far. So I'm going to pull that over to here. Okay. Now I'm doing this quite large because I want to show you that it can be done large. Okay. Now, I got to move that over also. So pull that over to about there. Okay. What I'm getting at is the length of my top to bottom should be equal to there. Okay, to that mark that I've made right here. Okay. Now, all right. So what we have is, ignore this line right here. So we have this bottom line right here. We have our top line right here. And then we have a side line right there. And what we've done is taken the measurement of the top to bottom and gone sideways to see how long that is left to right, and that's where it takes us. So if we were to draw a line here, that would give us square. Well, we know it's not square here because we measured one apple up and one apple over, and we still have some to go. So what we want to do is take that measurement, okay, go one apple over, and then kind of give us the same amount of apple back on the stick that we had before. Okay, so these are larger apples, but they're the same proportion. So if down here it's one apple to one plus some, then you want one apple to one plus some. Okay, and if it was a little more, we'd get it down to one and a quarter, 1.5, one and whatever it is, if it's measurable. In this case it's not very big, so I'm not going to worry about measuring it. I mean, I'm eyeballing it, not doing an exact measure. Okay, again, I'm going working with the bend in my camera angle. Okay, so there we go. Now ignore this. That was my first line. I didn't like it. I moved it over. So we end up with this box, this big box, and that's going to be the same proportion as the box around the dancer. Okay, now this first thing I call boxing it in. Okay, so I'm going to put that right here. Okay, box it in. Okay. Okay, number one. Box it in. Okay, so now you know where your drawing is going to go. And the reason for this is if you've drawn before, you all know when are drawing a face and you realize that you're going to run out of room. You've done the eyes, you've done the nose, you've done the mouth, and all of a sudden the chin's going to go off the paper, or the ear and side of the head's going to go off the paper, or you're drawing somebody standing there, and all of a sudden you realize their legs and feet are going to go off the paper. All those kinds of things, you want to be under control of that so that you, anyway, know where your drawing's going to end up and how large it's going to be. Now that's number one. So boxing in is number one. Number two is what we call anchor points. Okay? I don't know if you can read that. Okay, anchor points. So number two is, where does this line touch the subject or the object? Okay, and then we're going to replicate onto here where that is. Let's go for something pretty obvious and close to the middle. So one would be right here, where his head's touching. That'd be a nice anchor point, because then we can put it up here and we know where that's going to touch. Okay, so we're going to measure over. Let's call this one chair. Okay, so one chair to there, two chairs, and if I go to here, I get like 2 2/3. Let's try it again. One chair, two chairs, and it's like 3/5 or 2/3. Okay, and hopefully you can see that measuring going on. Okay, so up here I want to do a similar thing. Now use something. I like using a pencil because you can rock the pencil up and make a mark. So I'm going to guess that it's maybe about right here. So I'm going from my thumb to the end of my pencil. I'm going to go up there, make a little mark on my paper. I'm going to go one chair, two chairs. Oh, okay, and I need like 2 2/3, so I'm way short, right? So let's come over a ways, make another mark. I'm going to take my pencil to that mark. One chair, two chairs, okay. Oh, and I'm getting close because I have about 3/5 or about 1/3 of my pencil left. So I'm going to move over just a little bit and do it one more time. One chair, two chairs, and yeah, I like about where that is. So just like down here, you measure over one time, and then it was 2 times to about right there, and then a little more. Okay, let me do that without blocking everything. So we measured it here once, and then the second time took us about right there, and then we had about 3/5 or about 1/3, 2/3 over. So 1, 2, and that feels about right. Okay. Now, what does that tell us? That tells us that we're going to anchor the head right there. Okay, that's an anchor point. Now we're going to do the same thing on each of these sides. Okay, so I'm going to measure over here, and it gives me that far to the elbow, kind of where the elbow is hitting. And I can measure down from that line to where the elbow is kind of centrally hitting. 2, 3, 4. Okay, I'm going to do that again. 1, 2, 3, 4. And what I'm doing is I'm looking where I'm stopping, right? And what it turns out is that the distance to here, if I go down 1, 2, 3, 4, is just shy of being a quarter. See, 1, 2, 3, 4. So over here, I want to go ahead and find half. Let me show you a fun way to find half. Put your pencil up, or whatever you have, come from both directions, make a mark, and then all you have to do is find halfway between those two little marks. That's halfway. Okay, so if that's halfway, And I'm going to guesstimate that that's a quarter. That's about a quarter right there. Don't be afraid of making marks on your paper. I know that elbow's up just a little bit from quarter, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we had just a little further to go, which meant it's just shy of a quarter. And that's good enough. Okay? So here's my second anchor point right there. Kind of over-exaggerate that. You don't need to make giant dots like that. You just need to make a mark and know that that's your anchor point. However, don't be afraid to make a good significant mark, because these are anchor points because they should anchor your drawing for the entire drawing. Okay. Now, I don't mean for this to be too long. Hopefully I'll edit this down a little bit. Okay. Now over here, what we have is the toe, or it's the heel hitting about right there. And then the toe of the shoe. Now the toe of the shoe, I think, is measurable. So we'll measure 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that measurement goes up about 5 times. Okay. So what I'm going to do is well, no, not even close. Okay. It's hard when it's big. 2, 3, 4. Okay, that's pretty close. 1, 2. I just don't have a good mark there. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, maybe not quite that big. Okay, but basically I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 marks, which breaks it into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? And believe it or not, that's about how high that foot is, that toe. So that toe is going to anchor point about right there. Now the heel was kind of close to where our one apple went when we did our square thing. Now I didn't mark, well, I did mark it right there. And it's just inside of that. So I'm just going to make my other anchor point right there. Okay, so here my anchor points are 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, that's why the box is there. Those are lines in space that came and touched the object. What happens is people will sometimes erroneously make their box all nice, and then they draw this little teeny thing inside the box, and that doesn't make any sense. The box is there because the object is touching the box. Okay, does that make sense? So you should have the box the entire object belongs inside of, and the 4 anchor points that it's touching the box. Okay, last one. And the reason I really emphasize all this is if you don't do it all, then it's just not going to give you the gift of control that you're after. Okay, now the next part is major divisions. Okay, so first you box it in, find your anchor points, and you're going to do major divisions. Now, what's a major division? Look at the image for a second, right? Look at the image and ask yourself, what can I cut through somewhere in that box so that I'm slicing off a big decision? Does that make any sense? In other words, if I run a line right there, and I'm talking about kind of the upper body, if I run a line all the way up about in his armpit, you can see that almost the entire upper body is on the right side of that line. Okay, that'd be a good major division. Another one would be, say if I came right at the peak of that shirt, t-shirt, and jacket point. If I came to there and divided right there, what would that tell me? That would give me that the hips and down, at that line is only hips and legs down. The rest of the body is up. Okay. Now you could do all kinds of major divisions. You could find all kinds of things. They could even be on angles if you wanted. Okay, and we'll talk more about that later. But let's just do a couple of major divisions here and see how this works. Okay, where's my stick? Okay, so let's do those two. Let's do this one right here. Okay, this major division. Switching out my measuring devices here. Okay, so if we're going to divide under the armpit, kind of straight up there, then what I'm going to do is come in from one side and find where that is and see how that matches up. And what I'm getting, it's hard for me to get my thumb straight down there. If I go right in the middle of that to here and then to there, see I go a little past it. Or if I come this way from the side to my measuring device and over, and the camera's kind of defying what I'm trying to show, is this line is slightly to the left of middle. Okay. So again, if we come across the top, make a couple of marks, and find our middle. I know that that major division is just left of middle. Okay. So I'm just going to just go just left of middle. And it may or may not be exact, but let's do it. Let's just make a decision. Make that happen. Okay, so there's my first major division. I'm just cutting that there, and that should put most of the body over here. Okay, now let's do the leg one. Okay, let's divide it this way. Okay, and where does that get me? So if I come up from the bottom to there, and you know, you gotta decide exactly what you're doing. Is really close to middle. I think it's just barely higher than middle. Okay, now here is our midpoint. We found our midpoint earlier. Okay, that's kind of middle right there. So just slightly higher than middle is going to be this major division. Okay, so now we've done the three things that you need to do to control a drawing. What's nice about this is, you know, 100 steps later or 1,000 steps later when you're making decisions, these things shouldn't have moved on you very much at all. Okay, so you can still refer back to these right as you begin. You can refer back to it 85 steps from now when you're looking at details and fingers and shoelaces, whatever. And so you know they're going to be okay. Now, here's what we're going to do. Is let's start out, let's draw. Okay. Okay, let's draw. Oh, let me actually put these divisions on the drawing here. Okay, there's, oops, I did that kind of crooked. Okay, there's one major division. And there's the other major division. Okay, so now I can refer to that and draw based on what I'm looking at there. Now I should measure to where the head is, but we can measure the head later also. Okay, now it's telling me that head gets pretty close to that middle thing and maybe comes down like that. Okay, kind of getting ahead there. Now, if I measured really quick from there to there, that armpit is pretty close to middle of this, maybe just a little bit lower. And that's where the little armpit is. If you measure how far the hand goes out from the major division, it's not even halfway. Not even halfway. So I'm going to go up by there, put that little arm out there, and we got the hand happening. And look how the jacket comes right out of the face to about there and down and then out on the arm. Okay, so we got that happening there. Then we know that this point right here is basically the tip of that t-shirt. Okay, so we'll just draw a line down like that, coming down from that t-shirt. We could come up on the t-shirt there. I'm going to use the jacket though to come out here mostly and draw that there. Then let's come over to this anchor point and let's do a little angle on what's happening with this arm. Okay, and it's pretty thick elbow too. Okay, it rounds a lot on there. So then I'm going to come in a little bit and I can measure how far to come in. You can measure anything, almost a third, you know, or a little more than a third maybe even. And then the jacket comes in, drops down, it comes back up somewhere like that and back down. Okay, like that. So we got this elbow happening now. Up here, the jacket's coming out of the back of the head. It comes up pretty high there, right? And heads down towards kind of that direction there. And you can check angles. You could check that and check and see if you have the right kind of angle going, okay? Now the hand comes up here, almost touches the top. And we could even measure exactly where that is. I'm just going to give it a fan for the fingers there. Okay, and there's not much of a forearm, just the jacket pops up there, does a little ditty, and you got that there. Okay, now the legs. So you got this shoe down here, just kind of goes like that, and you're done. Not quite done. Now look at that shoe. It's like a big triangle, right? So make a triangle. Let that help. Okay, now I know that hip is kind of up here. It kind of bulges out for a second. But then it heads down. See where it disappears into the shoe? And that's just almost like a straight line, right? So just, if you can do a straight line, do it. That'll help you. Pant comes up here, kind of curves back in, and terminates into the other leg about at that point. Now we can measure down where that is, 2, 3, and it's pretty close, okay? But we can always tidy up little things as we go. We can measure how far that knee is from the bottom. 2, 3, 4. About a quarter. Okay, so maybe about right there. And it's like right on that major division line. Okay, and we got the shoe under there. I don't know if you can see that shoe, but it's popping out under there too. And this leg comes up to the jacket. And we could measure out where, you know, where that should be and so forth. Okay, so now we kind of have them in place, and it doesn't take too much else then to, you know, refine this slightly. Right? I'm just looking at angles, big gross angles, if you would be willing to call it that. I think the head has got to be longer. I think the chin comes down a little further. That'd be a good thing to measure early on, right? It's the chin. But I'm just hustling through, just blocking this out. Okay. Now, what I want you to do, if you've never done this before, is just be pretty brutal about this. These are some just big marks. They're not very refined. I don't have a lot of expression in them. But I can always add that later as I go, okay? I can always develop it. So don't worry too much about how pretty it is right off the bat, okay? Just get it built. Then you can have all kinds of fun getting things figured out as to what exactly is happening, right? Get that in there. So, okay. Oh, hand. Now I think I need to pull this sleeve back slightly. That arm's just a lot shorter than you think. And that's the beauty of having control. Something guiding your control of the drawing. Because otherwise, you'll so tend to make it what you think it should be instead of what it is. Okay? So put that little hand out there. Little thumb. And right there, you've got structure now that shouldn't have to change much. Again, you know, throughout the drawing, right? So now we can go back through at this point and measure the head. You know, make sure it's the right size inside of here. We can measure some arm lengths. We can measure jackets and pants and whatever we need to do. But the beauty of this is the overall piece is going to be in proportion. Now again, my camera skews it a little bit and I've been drawing against that. And so I'm going to remeasure to see if it feels right. And it may be a little bit long left to right, and this would be a good chance to test that and see if it's correct. So I'm going to measure the whole width to there, see what it gives me, and then I'm going to do the same thing over here. My whole width to there, and see what it gives me. And it's very close. So this is a very close representation of what the reference is. So anyway, you guys, okay, I'll try to edit this down so it's not so long, but this is one of the basics that you want to know and you want to have under your control. The beauty of this is you can do this anywhere. You can do it in landscape, you can do it in studio, you can do it in your backyard, you can, do it anywhere. You can do it off the TV, off the monitor, and freehand control exactly what you want to draw. Okay, so the assignment will be you can use this reference, which I'll put in the assignment. Yes, let's do this reference. Okay, the jumping dancer, that's what this is called. We'll have a chance to do something else. Okay, so I want you to do this one, and I want to have it please bring it to class so we can look at them, even though you're going to submit it on Canvas. Okay, so okay, 3 principles, box it in, do your anchor points, and do some major divisions, and then just sketch it out roughly. You can go a little more detailed if you want, but I just want to see that you're controlling your drawing in a big way. Remember, this is large. This is almost the full paper, 18 by 24. All right, thanks you guys. We'll see you soon. Good luck with it. Bye-bye.